Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to another ComCom Community Committee meeting. So I have the notes here for 2018-628. We usually start with some of the initiatives. So does anyone want to speak for some of the initiatives today? Give a moment.
Things with internationalization are going great. I'm just about to have another baby, so I'm kind of a little bit on edge. but as far as progress, it seems like things are headed in a good direction.
Awesome. Have you gotten any insight into like more of the what's the platform?
Crowdin?
The translation platform. Yes, Crowdin. Have there been more translations coming in?
Yeah, there have. To be honest, during the last couple of weeks, I've been relying on Zeke and other folks that are really active in that, and they've been trucking along and tracking along. I've been sort of in preparation for like having another kiddo, so I'm like
awesome.
Kind of just getting along here, but yeah, I think it seems like things are starting to stream in, and I'm definitely getting Crowdin alerts for translation. So
awesome. That's great.
That's exciting. Yep.
And congrats on the kid.
Thank you.
Nice. Dan, you say you have a user feedback check-in also?
Right. So I'm in Austria at WorkerConf. Benedict of the V8 team and much of the V8 team is here. The user feedback was plugged into an unconference style thing. And unfortunately, we didn't get very good attendance to the session. We were superseded by Half-Seed Yang, leading some very deep technical sessions. He did a wonderful session on code caching, and then everyone followed him to his next session. But I was able to have some really interesting dialogue with some folks that are responsible for an event called JS Congress, and they expressed an interest of potentially doing some user feedback tied to our next diagnostics summit, which the V8 team will be hosting in Munich, apparently in February of next year. So either before or after that, we're going to collaborate to do some outreach to bring in some folks specifically around the topic of diagnostics. So it turned a bit meta in terms of user feedback, but I'm happy with the outcome, and it's been a nice event. Thanks.
What was the summit that it was tied to?
Diagnostics summit. So the diagnostics working group, we did a diagnostics summit in Ottawa at the IBM office, and gather some folks together to collaborate on the state of diagnostics in the platform. And it's many of the folks that are responsible for the VM working group and the NABI stuff. So it's been a good collaboration amongst a bunch of folks that are sort of active members there. And yeah, so good to get broader community participation in these sessions.
Nice.
I'll drop the link to the summit after I'm done checking in.
Great. Yeah, so that in the notes. Cool. Okay, so are there any other initiatives to chat about today?
Yeah, I can speak for the mentorship. Basically, we have 10 mentors at the moment. So we're going to start the beta round by the beginning of this month. We have a meeting tomorrow to discuss choosing the mentees for the beta round. It's tomorrow this time, if you're interested to join in. Basically, we have 10 mentors at the moment, and we're going to start the beta round with them and see how things goes from there.
Sounds good. Okay. Any other initiatives to touch on?
Can I add something to the mentorship? We are also looking for more mentors. So if you are interested in getting involved, I was cajoled and coerced into signing up as a mentor for the community committee. Most of the mentors are from the technical side of the house. And so I'd love to see folks, if you have any spare cycles that are helping folks come in and become active collaborators in the community committee. So thank you.
Yes, please. Yeah, it would be awesome to have more mentors from the ComCom to kick initiatives and have more contributors on this side of the project.
Cool. Sounds great. I would consider helping out there for sure.
Yeah, me as well. Joseph here.
Giuseppe and
Yay.
White should join. Okay. Well, if there are no other initiatives to chat through right now, I'm going to start moving into the agenda for the meeting. My notes are a little bit spread here, but I think the first one is individual membership subgroup meeting. This is issue number 337 in the community committee. And let me just... it looks like, Tierney, you started this issue initially, but this issue contains the notes from the membership subgroup meeting that happened previously.
Gotcha. So hold on, what's the title of the item again?
The title is Individual Membership Subgroup Meeting, June 25th, 2018.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So that was that meeting happened. We went over context, previous context of what individual membership is, what we've begun to try to draft success criteria. I don't think we got there yet, but we did actually end up with a pretty substantial set of what we think we need to begin to do to actually really build out success criteria. That's in the minutes doc that's linked at the top of that issue. Unfortunately, I can't pull that up right now, but there's a pretty substantial amount of work, and I think we have a pretty solid foundation for the next meeting. I did send out a doodle to the group who expressed interest, and to the ComCom as well, I think, in total. So that meeting will be coming up not next week, but the week after that, I believe. And so we will be able to begin to dig into that even more there. So right now, I don't think there's any updates exactly, except for if you're interested in participating in that more, please come and help out. We would really appreciate it, because this is something that's going to be a ComCom project, or not be a ComCom project if that's what we decide to do, in terms of like sunsetting it. But that in that meeting we actually discussed some of the ramifications and implications of what that would be if we did have to sunset it. So yeah, there's some interesting stuff we have to figure out there, and we're also working at the board subcommittee level, so not the individual membership subcommittee, but the board subcommittee. We're working on some things out there as well. And those will be worked on with this group as well.
Yeah, and I was looking at the document earlier. There's a lot of good context and background information about some of why the previous program maybe didn't work. So definitely everyone's taking it.
Yeah.
All right, I want to add, so we tried to keep that meeting as a preliminary meeting. There's, as Tierney said, please come help out. There's a call for participants. And I believe we concluded, this is, you don't have to be a community committee member or anything like that. And by far, we want like the TSC folks to come in and community and all around. So don't feel like this is a closed group. That was kind of one of the big takeaways that I wanted to echo here.
Yeah, and you're correct. We did end up deciding that. I just wanted to make sure that you're clear on that.
In fact, we find it vital that it includes way more people.
Yes.
So open invite. Sounds good. Okay, I'll move on to the next point. Begin documenting partner communities and what that means. This is issue 326 in the community committee. And what this was related to, this was another issue that BNB started. Just context, what does it take to become a partner community? Some questions here, adherence to conduct.
Yeah, so this is something that, I think we've been kind of doing the work already a bit in terms of the Slack community, the Discord community that I created to kind of end the discussion or to take the work on around the discussion of, official communities. And we have a lot of prior context around this of what we need to actually do. But I think that, the what and how is really what we don't have. Yeah, and that, that includes, defining what we think should be, a partner community. Are events partner communities? Can they be a partner community? If so, what's the benefit there? Why would they want to be a partner community? Is it just things that community project members are running? And as that, I think the answer to that we came up with is yes, temporarily. There has to be a project member involved to kind of participate at a higher level in terms of, making sure the guidelines that we as a project value are being followed at that level as well.
Yeah, I think one thing to mention about this is that I definitely see that there's some hunger for people to be able to participate in communities like this, to have access to chats and be able to join in. So like definitely the interest is there, and it's just about defining what are the requirements, I guess.
How does everyone feel about me just throwing like a kind of a straw man or very rough outline of what this is into PR, and then you can tear it apart? I don't mind just like to get something up that we can kind of discuss on and pick apart.
I love it.
Okay, cool. Perfect. I'll take that on. I will put that together.
Thanks, Tierney.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. So that'll you'll add that to that issue, and we can move on. So possibility of creating a new repo for the wish list initiative. I think I was looking at this issue, and I think AJ was saying that we could remove the label for now. I'm not sure if we need to talk about this one.
Is AJ in the call?
Not seeing AJ, no. And the other one, the context would be Michael, but he's not here either.
So I went through and actually created the repo, and I believe a team for this, just because he reached out to me and said, was trying to get help on it. So I went through and just kind of helped him set it up. So I believe there is a wish list repo now in the org. I've not taken a look at some of the things there yet, like what kind of content exists there. I made very clear that we need to get a COC and contributing guideline stuff. That basically the table stakes for repos in the org in there. But that's where I left off with him.
Okay. Okay, well, I've noted that for now. It's started. Maybe at some point we check in to make sure that all those things are in the repo. Okay, I'm gonna go on to the next one. Node.js Foundation user feedback meeting 2018-706. This issue is in issue 73 in user feedback. And
who added the label?
So yeah, I'll take that one. We have a team meeting. So yeah, the Node.js Foundation part is probably a little bit too much. So we have a team meeting of user feedback on next Friday. It's not this. Not tomorrow, but the following week, and we are gathering some folks. We've begun sort of delegating and empowering members of the community that are participating. Bone Skull, Christopher, is taking on the initiative of user feedback and aggregating feedback around tooling, and has begun to organize meetings outside of the regular cadence of user feedback. Very happy with how that's going. And we have two groups that we're looking to sort of build and help facilitate meetings around. That is around promises, helping out Ben and others that are looking to build interest and improve the platform capabilities around promises. And then Ahmed is a note in there, who is the chief architect over at TELUS, and helping him draw in the enterprise user community. So anybody who's interested in either enterprise or promises in an organizational capacity, and drawing in end users around that, we'd love to have you join us next week. Thank you.
What if someone from the community wants to start up a similar group? Is there a path to that?
There is. Create an issue, but right now we are, at a point where we really don't have the bandwidth to prioritize new issues. Just the team capacity of being able to spin up and facilitate new groups is not there, but please, if you wanted set new things up, and you want the user feedback team to support you, create an issue, and we'd love to help you do that.
And if people wanted to get interested, or if they wanted to get involved in helping make the bandwidth a bit bigger, how can they do that?
That's the right answer. We'd love to have you join the user feedback team and help in this process. We're in the process of documenting that, and we'd love new team members. And the meeting next week would be a great place to raise your hand and help out, because there's a lot of interest here. And the in-person session that I had with the folks at JS Congress, and the discussions that I have had recently with Little Dan, who is on the TC39 committee, and TC39's interest in doing similar user feedback. There's a lot of interest in doing that, and it does take a little bit of facilitation, but I find it really rewarding. A little bit of facilitation goes a long way. And we always need more folks sort of helping out and doing outreach to make sure we get a broad, diverse group of individuals coming and joining around topics that need feedback. So welcome. Good noise.
Dan, can I ask, like, what is the general, like, scope of things discussed in the meetings? Like, I see it's revolved around promises, but I'm not sure exactly, like, what's exactly the scope around the meeting.
So we have two topics, enterprise and promises, and at the sort of internal team meeting, this is not a public session focused on getting user feedback. This is a team session about setting up a group of individuals who are looking to gather user feedback. So it's super meta. And it's going to watch this space if you're interested in engaging with that promises story. In a subsequent meeting, we'll have a public user feedback session where we want to engage end users that are interested in seeing improvements in the platform support with promises. But that is not the next week's meeting. This is setting up for that meeting, subsequent meeting.
And a question I have on that, just because I know the terminology, and I know you know the terminology. A public session, you mean a public feedback session, not that it won't be public, like streamed on YouTube, right?
Right. So everything that we do is all streamed on YouTube. But we have regular biweekly. Every 2 weeks we meet together, and we'll do the organizational part of team meetings. Those are all streamed on YouTube, like we do with all of our meetings. But then we have regular meetings that we call public meetings, where we're inviting end users and the general public into those meetings and connecting them with interested parties in the committee and the TSC, and trying to facilitate the feedback and listen to the broader end user community.
Awesome, thanks.
Thank you.
Sounds great. Okay. Well, I don't know if it's because I'm the best at this. That's our agenda.
So you've done a great job so far, Jeff. You really have. One thing I would like to add to the agenda, I opened a PR not too long ago. It's a quick, I wouldn't call it a straw man, but it's a quick draft, like I was talking about for the external communities, except it's for ComCom member onboarding. Just to be able, because I know we have a lot of knowledge that is contained in our heads, but not necessarily written down, including stuff that is, things to know about being a ComCom member. So I've gone through and just created a very small document that I would like everyone to take a look at. It would be super helpful if you could all share your own experiences and like the things that caught you up as ComCom members joining. Even from when I joined the ComCom, it's very different now than it was then. So it would be super helpful to get your input on that and add things to it and be able to make it a complete document. So I just want to get everyone's eyes on that. It's the latest PR, I believe, in the ComCom repo.
Create onboarding.md.
Yep, that's it.
Cool. Looks good. I like it.
Hey,
Thank you, Ahmed.
I know coming back around super late to this, since we did initiative updates in the beginning. I was a little frantic when I got in, but I did want to say a really cool update that happened recently was I connected with little Dan, Dan and TC39, and we're starting to see cross-pollination between the ECMA 402 meetings. I've been joining in there, and so hopefully we can represent more of the concerns of internationalization for JavaScript within Node as well. There, vice versa, all the same thing. I mean, not the same thing, but you know what I mean.
Could you give I have no clue what that ECMA or that standards group is. Could you give us a little bit of a brief on that? Just because for
Sure,
like,
it's like
understanding?
it's like the you could think of it as the facilitation of character sets, and the upkeep of character sets within JavaScript. So this is the definition of what that means for JavaScript, which is also used by like V8, and there's basically like there's a pretty clear cut distinction within our group between concerns that of sorry, with an internationalization of concerns for like translating textual assets, and that whole thing, like using a service like Crowdin, and then the actual characterization and accuracy of that using protocols like I think it's CLDR, I think is one of them, and other stuff that I'm sort of coming up to speed on now, ICU, these things that you don't really think about until you have to think about like the internationalization of character sets within a language standard, and how that's defined. So ECMA 402 is the organizational body that governs the specification for internationalization within JavaScript. And there's sort of Dan joined us when we were at the Collaborators Summit, and we also have Stephen Loomis in our group too, who is a member of the ECMA 402 group. So we're sort of in a period of time where we're thinking about how our we're sort of representing what that is for Node, I feel like, within our working group at the moment, since it's not really like discussed in other places like in the TSC as far as I can tell, but it's just a conversation we needed to explore more and solidify as far as how we keeping things up to date with the 402 standard.
So you mentioned a super interesting thing to me that I've never fully understood, but I know has been discussed previously, which is ICU. I believe Node right now ships like a partial ICU or a stripped down ICU because it's so large.
Right.
There's been discussion in the past of shipping full ICU, but I don't know where those discussions went. So that might go ahead.
If I could add from a technical point of view, we have a very simple import or upgrade from the partial ICU to the full ICU. Just as far as I remember, npmi ICU will get you there. So the issue has progressed and the gaps are minimized. Definitely.
Yep, that's awesome. Yeah, so anyways, I guess this is more of an update that we're seeing a lot of cross concern within our working group, and we want to explore solidifying that, like understanding and making what just keeping to spec, and making things more performant over time for internationalization in the actual character sets, as well as translating assets.
Awesome.
Yep.
Nice. Okay. Well, the next thing would be we always have time for a Q&A or questions from YouTube. Does anyone know if we have any?
If someone could open up the YouTube link, they should be saved.
There are no YouTube.
There's no one there. Or there's a couple of people watching, but there's no questions.
Okay.
I'd be happy to share a little bit more stuff about the ECMA, not TC39, but ECMA. So on Tuesday, I was at the actually Wednesday was the General Assembly meeting. Sorry, it's been a long couple days. So I joined the General Assembly. ECMA is in a real, TC39 is in a real interesting spot where, ECMA is kind of going through growing pains and, priorities and investments in standards are shifting in the community, in the sort of large industrial complex community. But TC39 is growing massively, and ECMA is seeing reduced membership. So they are very interested in TC39. TC39 is very interested in working more closely with Node.js. I had an opportunity to sit down with Little Dan a little bit and chat about how we can work more closely together. Tracy Lee is here at the event, and so hopefully we have the rudimentary start of a plan that can help get representation for Node.js on TC39. Node as a organization, as a consortia, as it were, is outside of the normal membership. The types of groups, the types of entities that can join TC39. The JS Foundation, however, was able to join, and I think that the Node.js Foundation should make the effort as well to join there, and kind of help move the state of the entities that are involved in TC39. ECMA would love to see their membership grow, but I honestly think that knowing from my experience at NodeSource, allocating a bunch more time of folks going and participating in that sort of a standards process can be challenging, and I think we should work with TC39 to see what the right way for the Node.js Foundation to become a member and represent Node.js as an entity on ECMA
Absolutely.
technical committee.
One of the things my understanding of JS Foundation is they were actually grandfathered in as the jQuery Foundation and then they changed it to JS Foundation. So I've talked to several people about this who are at companies who sit on TC39 and actively attend those, who are contributors to Node, and they said it's theoretically impossible.
Right.
So yeah, I'm all for that. That's a lot of work that we basically have to kind of have them help us update their policies or whatever.
Yep.
So yeah, I just wanted to give context on that because I know that that's the case, is they were grandfathered in as a foundation basically.
But
I'd also advocate for more people who are interested from Node in general to consider if they want to jump in on ECMA conversations as well. After having done this last week, just getting the sense from Little Dan that in various places, people are excited to also have applications developers in there. Not just standards body people or a certain vector of folks. Like they're looking for more diversity, and we can also provide that on individual levels as we're moving towards getting the Node Foundation integrated within that. So I think it'd be look into it and see if you want to represent there.
Absolutely.
Oh, and talk to Little Dan too, because he'd probably be a good person to ask, like where you can fit.
Do you have Little Dan's GitHub handle for the notes?
Guess what it is.
Right. That does not.
It's Little Dan. It's literally Little Dan.
I'm sorry, Dan.
He responds to Twitter to twittering, so you can Twitter him too.
Great. Cool. Well, I think that's everything that we had on the agenda. Somebody mentioned there might be a private thing for us to chat through.
Yeah, we should try to do that. I don't know what extent, but yes, we should go into that.
Tierney, is the discussion about numbers public Because I have an update
No.
that I could share about that. Okay, never mind.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, let's go into
We
private.
can do that in private session. Cool.
So, do you want to end the stream?
Yeah, thanks everyone for joining us. And I don't know if I can end it.
I think Dan has to, although you might, whoever the host is, I think has to.
Got it. I will end the live stream now.
Thank you, party people.
When it's done.
Thanks.
Thanks. Bye.
Everybody.
Cool. Are we?
Thanks.
So